You are in a supermarket, phone to your ear, and the call is dropping. You walk slowly toward the entrance. The signal gets a little better. You step closer to the sliding doors. Better still. You step just outside and suddenly the call is clear. You moved maybe 20 steps. The cell tower is probably nearby. Nothing about the air outside looks different from the air you just left. So why did 20 steps fix everything? Most people have had this exact experience, and most people have no idea what actually changed when they moved. The usual guess is something about being closer to the tower, but that is not what happened. The tower was just as close when you were standing in the cereal aisle. What changed was what stood between the tower and your phone. And understanding that changes the way you see every building you ever walk into. Let's get into it right here on Secrets of Simple Things. What a radio wave actually is. Before anything else can make sense, one question needs answering. What is a phone signal actually made of? A mobile signal is a radio wave, not a wire or beam of light. A wave of energy moving through space, similar in nature to the light from a lamp, just at a frequency your eyes cannot detect. Radio waves travel at the speed of light, and they have one useful property that visible light does not. They can pass through materials that would stop light entirely. A brick wall blocks sunlight. A radio wave passes through it, losing strength in the process but continuing on. This is what makes mobile communication possible inside buildings. But some materials weaken the wave far more than others, and that variation is the entire story. How the network was built to reach you. The signal begins its journey at a cell tower, and getting it to you reliably required decades of engineering planning that most people walking past a tower never think about. A cell tower is a fixed transmitter that broadcasts radio waves in all directions, covering a geographic zone called a cell. When you make a call or load a page, your phone finds the nearest available tower, locks on, and exchanges data as rapid bursts of radio energy. The tower relays the signal into the broader wired network, and the conversation completes. The challenge network engineers face is that radio waves lose strength with distance, and they lose it faster than most people expect. When you double your distance from a tower, the signal does not halve. It drops to roughly a quarter of its original strength, because the same energy is spreading outward across an ever larger sphere of space. At 4 times the distance, it arrives at 1/16th the strength it had at the source. Engineers call this the inverse square law, and it is why placing towers in the right locations matters enormously. To compensate, carriers place towers densely in cities, aiming for most people to be within a few hundred meters of at least one. They commission detailed radio frequency surveys of each area, using maps of building heights, terrain features, and population density to calculate where coverage will reliably reach and where it will fall short. Tower height, antenna angle, and transmitter power are all adjusted to close the gaps as tightly as budget and regulation allow. In a well-served city, this work means the signal arriving at the exterior of almost any building is strong and consistent. By the time the radio wave reaches the wall of your office or the facade of your supermarket, it still carries most of the energy it left the tower with. The engineering has done its job. What happens next is outside the network engineer's control. Once the signal encounters the building itself, it enters a world of concrete, steel, glass, and water that was not designed with radio waves in mind. Some of those materials cooperate with the signal. Others fight it in ways that even a well-placed tower a street away cannot overcome. The strength that survived the journey across the city can disappear in the last few centimeters of brick or metal standing between the wave and your phone. What each material does to the signal. This is where the physical world stops cooperating. Concrete absorbs radio waves. A single concrete wall reduces signal strength noticeably. Multiple concrete walls or a thick concrete floor overhead reduce it dramatically. This is why underground car parks and basements are almost always dead zones, even directly beneath a city full of towers. The concrete above is not reflecting the signal away, it is absorbing it, converting the wave's energy into heat so small it cannot be felt, but real enough to leave nothing useful arriving at your phone. Metal does something different. Metal reflects radio waves, bouncing them in unpredictable directions rather than absorbing them. A steel-framed building or an elevator lined with metal panels redirects the signal chaotically, creating patches of unexpectedly good and bad reception that seem to shift as you move around. Inside an elevator, the signal that reaches you enters almost entirely through the narrow gap around the doors. Once those doors close fully, the gap seals and reception often disappears completely. Glass lets radio waves through far more easily than concrete, which is why moving toward a window reliably helps. But here is the part that surprises most people. Modern energy-efficient windows are coated with a thin metallic film designed to reflect heat back into the room in winter. That same coating reflects radio waves. A window engineered to save energy looks completely transparent to your eyes and behaves almost like a wall to your phone signal. Water absorbs radio waves too. Your own body is mostly water, which means your hand or palm placed between the antenna and the tower reduces signal strength in a measurable way. Phone manufacturers position antennas to minimize this, but they cannot eliminate it, which is one reason holding a phone differently can sometimes change reception. A well-watered houseplant does the same thing at a smaller scale. One plant barely registers. A room full of them produces a detectable effect on any signal passing through. Moving to a window does not always help. Most people who know that moving toward a window improves signal assume the reverse is also true. Bad signal means finding a window will fix it. That assumption works for one kind of bad signal. It fails completely for another. The bad signal inside a concrete building is a materials problem. Moving to a window reduces the physical barrier between you and the tower. The fix works because the cause was physical obstruction. But there is a second kind of bad signal that has nothing to do with what the building is made of. In a stadium during a sold-out match, in a concert venue when the doors open, at a train station on a public holiday, your signal bars may look healthy and your connection may still be nearly unusable. The tower is not being blocked, it is being overwhelmed. Each cell tower handles a limited number of simultaneous connections. When tens of thousands of devices in a small area all try to connect at once, the tower cannot serve them all at full speed. Data slows or drops. Moving to a window changes nothing because the problem is at the tower, not between you and it. This is also why your signal sometimes improves the moment you walk away from a large crowd, even outdoors with no building in sight. The bars go up not because you moved closer to a tower, but because you moved away from thousands of other devices competing for the same one. Two different problems, one familiar symptom, only one responds to finding a window. Two surprises nobody thinks about. Today, you will find the gap between what people expect and what signal actually does sharpest in two places most people have never connected to the physics. The elevator is the most reliable dead zone most people encounter daily, and almost nobody understands why. Its walls, floor, and ceiling are all metal. Radio waves that enter the cab bounce chaotically off the surfaces without finding a consistent path to the antenna inside your phone. The only reliable route into an elevator is the narrow gap around the door seals, and once the doors close fully, even that path nearly disappears. Some newer buildings install dedicated signal repeaters inside elevator shafts for this exact reason. Most buildings do not, which is why the call dropping between floors remains one of the most predictable experiences in modern life. The other surprise happens in homes with recently upgraded windows. Energy-efficient glazing is sold and installed as a straightforward improvement, and thermally it is. But the metallic oxide coating that makes the glass reflect heat inward also reflects radio waves outward. People who upgrade their windows sometimes find that mobile reception in their home gets noticeably worse without understanding why. The windows look identical to the old ones. They let in the same light. The building looks unchanged from the outside. But the new glass is doing something the old glass never did, and a phone placed near those windows discovers the difference immediately. An invisible journey. So why did 20 steps toward the supermarket entrance fix your call? Because the signal was always there. It was reaching the outside of the building at full strength. What it could not do was fight through the steel frame, the concrete panels, the refrigerated metal shelving, and the energy-efficient roof panels all at once. Every bar of reception is the result of a radio wave completing a journey through the physical world. Every material it passes through costs it some strength. A window gives it a shorter, easier path. A doorway gives it almost no path at all, which is why stepping outside makes the difference feel immediate and complete. What feels like a simple connection is an invisible negotiation between physics and architecture happening around you every second you carry a phone. If this changed the way you think about the next time you find yourself walking toward a window for a better signal, let us know in the comments what you want us to explore next. We might make it our next episode. Thanks for watching. History often hides in the smallest details.